Well, today I have a reel that I really love very much. To many of you, it may look like an old dinosaur, which it is. This reel was manufactured from 1987 until 2022, so it's been around a long time, very highly sought after, and what makes this reel so special is it has an internal level line to facilitate line lay. So what happens is with the level line, the spool moves back and forth really fast and it lays the line in a crisscross pattern, which is pretty important if you're running braided lines, so you're not going to get any dig in or anything like that. And it's also a lot more durable than your typical oscillator gear, which is the helical style gear, where it's just flat with the teeth on the side. Whereas this, it's a level line like much you'd see on a bait cast reel. Another thing that I like about this is the drag, which is super, super smooth. And honestly, there aren't many reels that are made today that have a drag as smooth as this. And the key to that is it runs a felt drag system, whereas a lot of newer reels use carbon fiber, but still with a lot of modern spinning reels, you'll still find felt used in the 3,000 and under size. And why that is, with felt, it has a much smoother startup, so it takes less initial pull to get that spool turning than it does with carbon fiber, which has more bite. When you're running an ultralight reel such as this, that's going to play in your favor because you're going to be running light line, and a lot of the times that pull can cause a drag to skip or whatever, especially with something that's a grippier material like carbon fiber. But with that out of the way, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put a brand new handle on this one. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but these handles are upgradable on these. As you can see, this has the old style where you can fold it in, and pretty typical of reels from the era. They're very heavy, but that pivot that's right here really takes away from the feel of it. And a handle swap is not too hard to do on these. It's fairly straightforward as long as you have the correct components. So to start with, I'm going to remove the side cap so we can get a look at the screw that's under there. And we need to pull this guy out, and we're going to back that out. And something that we're going to see about this that a lot of newer Daiwa spinners don't use is a hex shaft. So the hex shaft, this is how older Daiwa reels are. You have this shaft right here. The drive gear system is keyed for it, as you can see in there. This slides in, and you tighten the screw on the other side, and you're ready to fish. But a lot of newer Daiwa handles aren't like that. What they do is they thread directly to the drive gear system. As you can see on this part here is threaded, and it'll just screw right into the drive gear. But the way around that I've discovered is there's a hex shaft adapter that's made by Hedgehog Studio. And with this adapter, it's reverse thread, and it just screws right into the base of the handle, and then you can go ahead and use a newer style handle. What this is a RCS 35 millimeter handle. Some may be wondering why I went with such a short handle. Well, this reel is it only brings in 22 inches per turn of the handle, so if you're using a long handle on it, it's going to be like churning butter. You want something you can keep a good pace with, especially if you have a fish that's charging at you. You're going to be able to need to pick up that line, and a longer handle is going to make that a little more difficult. What I need to do next is pop out that nylon bushing that's at the end, because this, unfortunately, we won't be able to use that, but there is a workaround with this guy here. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of these little shims and I'm going to stack them up in there. But first, I do need to put a knob on the handle. And what we need to do is put on a shim, and we're going to stack the bearing on there. And the next thing, we're going to take the knob, push down on it so it's in place. We're going to take our next bearing. Sometimes this top bearing is a little difficult to get in there, but sometimes you could just take a little screwdriver and get it right down onto the post that's in there. There we go. So we got the other bearing in, and we have one more shim. We're going to drop that in. And lastly, we have our screw. I'm actually going to put a little bit of a blue thread lock on there because we don't want that thing to back out while we're fishing. I've had that happen to me one time a few years ago. Something I overlooked, and I was doing a reel up, one of my own. Just a little bit of blue thread lock on there. That's all we need. And we could take this screw, drop it right in there. We'll take our screwdriver, put this guy in, and then from there we have I actually got a gold knob cap to match with that, and that just pushes in. And then here's the important part, since as you can see, the hex shafts are mismatched in length. So we won't be able to run that nylon bushing on there. So what my fix is, I'll just take these two shims and stack them onto the screw. And then we want to put a little bit of thread lock on here. Now this is blue thread lock. This stuff you can, if you ever need to, it's easily removable. You're not going to go ahead and it's not going to be a temporary bond or a permanent bond into that. But as you can see with the hex shaft in there, there's a little bit of gap left. Well, what's going to happen, those shims are going to ride right on that the inner race of the bearing just by a little bit. While these bearings, they can take an axial load, so you're not going to have to worry about that. It's just going to go through, and it'll behave just as good with this handle as it did with the factory one. It's actually going to be a little bit lighter too. I want to say this handle weighs about a half an ounce less than what the factory handle did. I'm just going to get that screw in there. Now you don't have to put a lot of tension on this thing. You can just get it nice and snug, and then the thread lock is going to take care of the rest of it for you. There we have it. Now what I do is I like to check to make sure if there's any lateral play in the handle, which there's just a tiny bit, which is fine because you want that to be free moving. Then we put the cap back on, and there we have it. That is the handle upgrade for a Daiwa SS700. And I'll put some links below to where I purchased the products in order to do this handle swap. You can also do it with the 13, 16, and 2600 sizes. I did get the parts from Japan. Unfortunately, Daiwa doesn't really sell anything here as far as handles go that are, these are actually made by Daiwa. SLP works as their performance parts division, but they don't exist here in the United States. They're, I don't know why, there's absolutely a big market for it, but for some reason they like to give us whatever they have versus in Japan where they get all the fun toys. But this reel now, the feel of it's so much better because that pivot's not in there anymore. It really takes away from the feel of this guy. And something like this, the 700 size, be perfect for trout, panfish, river smallmouth, that sort of thing. And hopefully I answered some questions. If you have any more, drop one in the comments below, and I'll post up some links to where I purchased everything to do this handle conversion. Thanks for watching.